Oh, hey, it's good to see you again. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of my annual Best of See It Again Cinema special. 2024 was an interesting year for movies. I see a little bit more experimentation and risk taking with the form of how stories are told and how they are connecting to what's going on in the zeitgeist. So, without further ado, I want to list the 7 films that I most want to see that came out in 2024. Number 7, Megalopolis by Francis Ford Coppola. It had been many years, about 13 years, since I had seen a Coppola film in the theaters, back when I saw Tetro, which was an interesting homage to Fellini films, but kind of left me cold. Those of you who've watched the channel for a while know that I have a special place in my heart for any filmmaker who has a passion project, long gestating, perhaps seemingly cursed in that it just can't seem to be made, or that there are all kinds of obstacles and hurdles to seeing that released. And Megalopolis, I gotta say this, it doesn't feel like any other movie that I've seen in a long time or before. It's there's a lot in there, and it was a very interesting experience. I There were parts that I thought were beautiful, parts that I thought were somewhat mystifying, some parts that I just was scratching my head, going, hmm. But with time and multiple rewatches, I believe this film's reputation will improve. Number 6, 32 Sounds, directed by Sam Green. This is the only documentary that is on my list, and it is about the history of sound in cinema and how it's recorded, how sound effects are added to movies to create a certain reality. And uh, besides the fact that I just thought it was really well done and very informative and just a great documentary, when I was in the theater, there was this old man chewing popcorn through the first half of the movie, and it was so distracting. I had to ask him twice to just stop making sounds for this movie. It was a smaller theater, and um, anyhow, I'd like to rewatch it without any distracting sounds. Number 5, Civil War, directed by Alex Garland. So this film is very controversial and divisive, and I fear that it may be prophetic. But what I thought was most interesting about this film, and I think Alex Garland's got a very intelligent eye for story structure, for plot, dialogue, and communicating big ideas about technology, gender, politics. What I thought was really interesting about this film is that with the trailer, depending on your where you are on the political spectrum, the trailer either terrified you or invigorated you, or in some ways, this film, I think the biggest hat trick it pulls off is it tries to apply journalistic objectivity to the narrative. So someone could watch this film and view it as a tragedy, like it's reporting on a nation in crisis, but depending on your political allegiance, you would think that the film was a tragedy for different reasons. And I think it's really interesting that the characters, who are these photojournalists embedded in their own country that's at war, I just think it's a special film, and it'll become even more relevant, in 2025 and beyond. Number 4, Sasquatch Sunset, directed by David and Nathan Zellner. This was a very strange, quirky, and oddly moving film. It has no dialogue. It just follows 4 Sasquatch in what looks like maybe the Pacific Northwest. I won't spoil any of the other plot points, but there is something about just seeing what their day to day life is like. And it's like if someone took 2001 A Space Odyssey's Dawn of Man and stretched it and made it very kind of a personal family, like an indie road trip movie, but about a group of Sasquatch who may or may not be related. It's really open for interpretation. So if you're looking for something different and unpredictable, check out this film. It is it's pretty remarkable and maybe should have won Best Makeup. Number 3, Nickel Boys, directed by Ramel Ross. Now, I had not read the novel that this was based on by Colson Whitehead, but it is a remarkable adaptation. I can just see the care and thought that went into the way that they tell the story, to where you really empathize and identify with the protagonists, because you see the world through their point of view. I also thought that the camera work and cinematography reminded me of Terrence Malick. I think what's going to be particularly powerful and relevant about this film is that with everything going on in the world, here is this film that is very relatable, powerful, and it's PG-13, and I think that it will get seen by more young people who need to see this part of the United States history of that time period, and to understand just how unjust the times could be then and now. And I'd highly recommend this beautiful film. Number 2, Conclave, directed by Edward Berger. Okay, so my friends and I thought that this film was going to be drier and kind of boring, but it was actually pretty exciting, getting to dive into the secret world of the papacy and just how the Catholic Church nominates and votes for who the new pope is going to be. Even though this is a fictional story based on a novel, it seems like it's really timely with what's going on with the current Pope Francis and his health and anxieties about who the next pope may be. Even though I was greatly moved by Ray Fiennes' performance and what he had to say about the nature of faith, that struck a chord with me. This film is really about politics and what is the process for deciding who gets what and how. And I found that this religious political thriller is somewhat of an analog for what is going on with democracies around the world. Phenomenal cast, great acting, and one of the best scores of the year, because it's rare to see a movie where the movie score, you hear it once and the theme sticks with you. I miss movie themes, and I wish more movies had great themes to them. So check out Conclave. All right, number 1, Dune Part 2, directed by Denis Villeneuve. All right, I was a big fan of the first Dune, and I'm so glad that Denis is taking the approach that he is to adapting Frank Herbert's epic sci-fi novel. This one is kind of the Two Towers, The Empire Strikes Back. Bigger, darker, weightier themes. The cast was phenomenal. The special effects, the editing, the cinematography. Hans Zimmer deepens the score and the themes from the first film while adding in a new love theme that is haunting and just beautifully used at 3 separate times in the film. It really doesn't get better than this, and I have a feeling that Denis Villeneuve is going to get nominated for director and will win when he does Dune Messiah, the same way Peter Jackson won for Return of the King. I can't wait for that third installment, and I think it's going to finish the series well. I know the films will continue after he steps away, but for me, I just want to see him tell the story he wants to tell. And if you haven't seen Dune Part 2, I recommend seeing it on as big of a screen as possible, because it really was an experience. Well, all right, that'll do it for this episode of See It Again Cinema, where old movies, even from last year, can make magical new memories. Thanks for rewatching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!